Hi, I'm Anne Marie Kelly, and I'm glad you joined me today for another episode of Not Your Mother's Marriage. And today we're going to be talking about agreements. You know, I did a talk not too long ago, and I talked about agreements, spoken agreements, unspoken agreements. And a woman came up to me afterwards and she said, "Agreements? I didn't even know we had agreements." But of course you do, and the example that I always like to use is I'll ask a woman if she sends out Christmas cards, birthday cards, cards to people, and usually the woman says yes, and then I say, well, do you send them to your family? Yes. And your friends? Yes. Do you send them to his family and friends? And usually I get like a funny look. It's like, yeah, of course I do. Well, my next question then is, have you had a discussion about the fact that you're going to be sending cards to his family? And it never occurred to her that she would do anything but be the one to send the cards out. But they never had a conversation about who was going to do that. That maybe one of you was going to send all the cards, or you would each send cards to your own families. They were unspoken agreements, and there were so many unspoken agreements in a relationship that many times that when you come to the end of a period of time, somebody says, you know, I've been doing that, but I hate doing it. Well, why didn't you ever tell me? Because we never talked about it. It's really important to talk about your agreements, your spoken ones and your unspoken ones. And so today I have with me the man with whom I've been making agreements through, now we are in our 7th marriage and 31 years, my spouse, Joseph Eagle.
Hi, how are you? This is our first time together and a little bit nervous, but I think we'll be okay. So we want to talk about agreements, so let's go ahead.
Well, Joseph, one of the things I noticed in each of our 5-year marriages that when we were on the same page and we were in agreement, we moved faster together. Do you find that to be true?
Oh, yes, that's true, yes. And then that's why we do the agreements. And when we first started, we didn't have those agreements and we got stagnated. But once we started doing agreements through the family meetings, things started to move forward at a faster rate. Is it perfect? No. But it's better than if we didn't have the agreements.
And I don't find it ever really particularly easy. Like, some agreements are easier than others, but some of them get emotional and intense, don't you think?
Yes. The easy ones are who's going to do the dishes. One of the things that we do, if I come home and she's on the computer, I know that I'm going to cook dinner, and then she knows she's going to clean up. There's no set rule, but that's a simple agreement that we come up with.
Yeah, well, our agreement is whoever cooks doesn't have to clean, and whoever is cleaning doesn't have to cook.
Yes. And since I dirty my own laundry, I do my own laundry. That's a simple agreement, too, as well.
Yeah, we have never done each other's laundry in our whole married life. And so when I'm helping other people with this, if they have children, I often say, well, maybe you can do your laundry and the kids' laundry, and he can do his laundry and the household laundry, like the towels and the sheets and things like that. It's a way of splitting up that responsibility, because a lot of times women say to me, you know, I'm doing all the laundry and I'm folding the sheets, but there are ways to work that out so that you have an agreement that seems fair to each other.
The only disadvantage is I'm slightly colorblind. So when I do my laundry, sometimes I may get the colors mixed up, so when I get dressed up, I don't coordinate. That's the only negative about her not doing my laundry.
Well, that part's true.
That's true, yeah.
So I wanted to explain to everybody that this doesn't just happen. It doesn't, like, we don't have magical, we don't come to agreement magically.
No.
You know, it takes time. It takes the family meetings, and one of the things that I tell couples is, don't even do it in the house.
You mean having the family meeting?
Yeah, I mean
want to
having the
get that
family
straight.
meeting.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so we take it out of the house, because what we find is if we do it in the house, and we have an argument, and that happens pretty often. Mm-hmm. People sometimes say, well, do you argue? I'm like, yeah, we argue, and loudly. And I often say there are no perfect marriages, and because there are no perfect partners, and everything's an evolution. So yeah, so we have that, and when we have a meeting at home, unless it's like very cut and dried, it's like who's going to. We're getting new carpet, so which one of the estimates are we going to have for the new carpet? That's sort of not so hard. But if we go out of the house and we have something that's testier, like maybe something with an in-law, or maybe with something difficult that's happened with business, we are more likely to sit and actually have that conversation if we're at a coffee shop or someplace like that. And we are less likely to get up and walk away from it. So the family meetings are important, and doing them outside of the house are important. Don't you agree?
I agree, yes. That's why we have them outside the house.
So we didn't always do family meetings. We didn't start doing family meetings until our third marriage. So in the first and second marriage, our first marriage, it kind of went along like most married couples go on at the beginning. And then in our second marriage is when we got hit the 7-year crash, and we went for therapy. Mm-hmm. And that's where we learned a lot of the things that we have started, I put into a process. How do you think it's different now? How do you see compare what it was then to where it is now?
Well, I think we matured as a couple as the years gone by. We know each other. I know what you want to do professionally. And when I first started, my career was a priority. Now, with our agreements, we agreed that your profession is a priority as well. So that's one thing that we're working on right now, which is important. 20 years ago, that may not have been the case, but now we have a better foundation. We know who we are, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses is, what we want to do to improve our weaknesses to strength. So we work with each other in that situation. So I think that makes us a better couple and a stronger couple together.
And how do you think? And I'll agree with you. And I think that because we spend more time talking about it, mm-hmm. and I think we have a better sense of how we are together, mm-hmm. as we do the family meetings. But one of the things I wanted to ask you was, how do you think the 5-year marriage affects the whole idea of making agreements?
Well, the agreements answer a few questions. If something has to be done, the first question is, who's going to do that agreement? Rather, it's calling up the doctor or getting something fixed in the house. The second question is how it's going to get done, who's going to do it, and when it's going to get done. And that makes it a lot clearer. It's a lot better than we don't have the agreement. It's like shooting darts without a dartboard. You're just throwing it all over the place. This gives us a point of focus, and it gets done faster. And we tend to focus. And the issue is, if I have the time to do it, let me take care of it. And if you have the time to do it, you can take care of it. Most cases is whoever has the time to do it.
And there's a pretty even split.
Yeah.
And we write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important for people to know. We write, when we come to those agreements, we write it down because, a week later you could say, well, I didn't say that, if it's not written down. But if it's written down, then you pretty much know, I did this and you said you were going to do this, you said you were going to do this. And there's also something about writing it down that has a level of accountability that keeps you honest.
And the other issue to writing it down, we found out if you write the things down on the schedule, it gets done. If you just write it down without the schedule, it may get done, but not on time. And that's one thing we learned in a couple of years, that, all right, the night before we're going to write things down, this is what we're going to do, and it's on the schedule, and it gets done better, faster.
What do you think is the overall impact of us having those agreements, those spoken agreements, that we make through our family meeting, and they're written down. And some people say, well, it makes it seem so much like a business. How do you think, because of our 5-year marriage, that makes a difference?
Well, we're on the same page. That's the key. We're on the same page and moving forward in the same direction. You may have a different career. I have a different career, but we're moving forward on the same page. That's probably the biggest difference. That's what, to me, what the agreements do. They keep us on the same page.
And the other thing I think is that when I know you're doing what you're going to do and I'm doing what I'm going to do and we're getting stuff done, then I think that there's a level of trust that happens. That if I'm having a hard time and you're going to do this or that for me, then I know you've got my back.
Yes, and dependability too.
Yeah,
And they go hand in hand. Trust, dependability, are that's there. Yes, I agree.
And I think that makes a difference. I think it makes a difference when we go out into the world, that we know that we have each other.
Yes.
In a way that sometimes I think it's a presumption with people, but they don't back it up.
Yeah.
And I think with us, the agreements and the family meetings make a difference with that. And I think that whole idea of having that trust, knowing somebody has your back, trust builds intimacy. And not specifically the sexual kind of intimacy. That comes on its own in a different way. But the kind of intimacy that happens when you know that you can really trust the person that you're with, and that person's not going to be going around the back way to talk about you differently or complain about you. And it's like, oh yeah, she does blah, he does blah. You're on the same page. You've come to agreement. You're two adults coming to an agreement, and I think that makes a big difference. Joseph, thank you for coming here today. I know that it was a little bit of an effort to get your clients rescheduled so that you could be with me, but I'm glad you are.
It worked out well.
Yeah,
Glad I
thank you.
did.
And of course, you can find more information about the 5-year marriage at 5yearmarriage.com, and you can find me on Facebook at 5-Year Marriage. Thanks for coming today. I'll look forward to talking with you another time. Chen's on.